The loss that might have ended the season, but more importantly, it might have ended more than that. Welcome in to the Friday edition of the Lunch Break here on KDUS AM 1060, KDUS AM 1060 app, and on the KDUS AM 1060 YouTube live stream. We hope you're having as good of a Friday as you can, considering what happened last night with the basketball game. And look, I'm contractually obligated to do this at the start of every show. I don't want to hit this button. I don't want to have a cheery, upbeat start to the show with this music. But again, contractually obligated to do this. You know where we're starting today's program.
Time for our top story of the day. It's the Daily Special.
Yeah, that's all you're getting. I'm getting the music completely out of there. There's no reason today to play the nice, upbeat, cheery music when we start. The Daily Special, the top story of the day. You know what the top story of the day is. The Phoenix Suns season ended last night. It is over. They are going to play their way through the final 23 games of the season. They might give us some cool moments along the way, some one-off individual performances. But last night, the Phoenix Suns season came to an end. It is over. They are not going to make the play-in tournament. They are going to be one of 10 teams that doesn't at least get to represent the NBA in a play-in tournament. That is where the Phoenix Suns sit after their loss last night. These last 23 games matter for absolutely nothing. The only thing we would want to see over these next 23 games is that they win enough to make sure Houston doesn't have good odds to get the number one overall pick when they have the draft lottery. That's it. That is all that is on the line the rest of the way for the Phoenix Suns. Because after that effort last night, there is no reason to think that they should win any single game the rest of the way. They might. They probably will. There's 23 games to go. But you should not waste your time, waste your effort, waste your energy, waste your money watching this team right now. And I'm sorry to be so bold and brash to start the show today, but I've got no other choice. You're at home. You're a 7.5-point favorite. And the New Orleans Pelicans, who have 15 wins the whole season, roll into your building. They roll into your building with their best player, Zion Williamson, on a minutes restriction. They're taking it easy with him. You know he's only going to play about 28 minutes at any given night. So he's on a minutes restriction. You have, before that, one of the best players, Brandon Ingram. He got traded. He's not there anymore. They didn't have Brandon Boston. They didn't have Herb Jones. They didn't have Kelly Olynyk last night. They had a bunch of guys not available, and they still beat you in your own building. They beat you by 8 in a game in which you were favored in Vegas by 7.5 points. There is zero excuse for that. So I am no longer going to try to sugarcoat this and do the math and give you the different scenarios. This team is not worth your energy. I would do something else with my time tonight. I would do something else with my time over the weekend. There is zero reason to lose to that basketball team last night. And honestly, and we're going to get into this here in the next segment, there are bigger problems out of last night's game. There are bigger issues with the Phoenix Suns than their season coming to an end last night and losing to New Orleans. There are bigger picture, long-term ramifications that I think are going to come to a head over the next 23 games. And as has been the status quo with this team all year, it feels like everything happens in bunches. Producer Dylan, you're a little bit on the younger side, so maybe you didn't hear this phrase growing up, but I did in my household. Everything happens in threes. Things don't happen isolated. Things normally happen in bunches. And for the Phoenix Suns, you know what happens in bunches? They're bad mistakes, the bad luck. It happens in bunches. Things happen in short bursts where their entire game just goes down the toilet. There's an example of it in last night's game. Start of the fourth quarter, the Suns have a 91-88 lead. With 10 minutes and 52 seconds to go in the fourth quarter, they have a 93-90 lead. I'm going to tell you what happens over the next, minute and a half, the next 90 seconds. This is the next 90 seconds of Suns basketball after they have a 93-90 lead. Made three by New Orleans. Turnover by Devin Booker. Oh, I'm sorry. I jumped ahead too much. Let me back up just a second. 93-90 with 11:07 to go. The Pelicans make a basket to draw it to 3 points. Turnover by Grayson Allen. Loose ball foul by Ty Washington. A made three by New Orleans. The turnover by Devin Booker. A made two-pointer by New Orleans. A miss from Ty Washington. a make from Zion Williamson, a missed three, one missed free throw from Mason Plumlee, a missed three by New Orleans, an offensive rebound, a layup by Zion Williamson, and a 93-90 lead turns into a 99-94 deficit in less than 3 minutes. Happens in bunches. Turnover, offensive foul, missed shots, missing free throws. All of it happens in a condensed area, a condensed time frame for the Phoenix Suns, and their entire game just goes down the toilet. It just completely goes sideways on them. And the other thing from last night's game is once again, this team spotted an early lead to the opposition. They had an 18-point deficit at one point in the second quarter. And so you know what I did this morning in preparation for the show? I went all the way back. I went all the way back to November 1st of 2024. This program was at that time less than a month old. We had been doing this show for about 2 weeks. This is a bit of a longer cut from that program, but I'm going to play it in its entirety. It's about 60 seconds because you're going to hear something in here that's very important. You're going to hear my voice, but listen to what I'm saying about a game that took place at the end of October, the beginning of November. You like that they show that ability to come back. You like that they show that no lead is insurmountable. You like that they are showing this fight this early in the season. That's a good thing. That is a positive sign for a team that's dealing with new players, new coaches. It's a good thing that they are able to, this early in the season, rally the troops and erase these deficits. You don't like how often these deficits are coming up. It is not a way you want to live in the postseason when the competition gets better, when you're more tired because you've played more games. You don't want to have your recipe, your formula for success to be, hey, we're just going to spot you a quick 15, a quick 20-point deficit. Nah, don't worry. In the second half, we'll come back. We'll hit our first 15 shots of the third quarter to be able to get ourselves back into this game. It's nice. It's fun. It creates some good fodder for us to start the show here today, discussing another Phoenix Suns comeback, another Phoenix Suns win to start the year. But it is not the way this team is going to be able to make a living throughout the remainder of the regular season and into the postseason. I'm not going to take the victory lap, but I'm going to take about as close to a victory lap as you can get. That's in November. That's at the start of the season when we saw this team. I know one of them came against the Lakers. I think the other one was against the Clippers in the early part of the season where they had 18, 20-point deficits early in the game that they dug themselves into. And in the second half, they dug themselves out of it. That was a part of their 8-1 start to the beginning of the season. And what did we tell you during that 8-1 start? We told you, hey, this is great. It's fun. They're 8-1. You cannot make a living playing this style of basketball. This is going to wear on you as a basketball team. You are not going to have the gas in the tank to do this night in and night out and be able to do this and pull this rabbit out of your hat when the season is toward its conclusion. When you have 20 games left, when you have 15 games left, when you are playing these crunch time, close basketball games with high pressure, high intensity, games that you absolutely have to have if you wear yourself out over the course of the regular season by needing to do this, by needing to make these comebacks, there will come a point when you don't have anything left in the tank. I don't want to take the victory lap, but we talked about this in November. That's from November 1st. It's February 28th. It's going to be March 1st tomorrow. That's 5 months ago. That clip is 5 months old. That's the beginning of the season telling you this is not a way to win. And last night, they had an 18-point deficit to New Orleans. And yes, they came storming back. They made the game competitive. But the effort that takes, the energy that you have to exude, it throws your entire game plan off. It throws your entire rotations off when you have to try to claw back into a game that way. And then you get to the fourth quarter. And I'm sorry, they played a big overtime game the other night where they had to exert a lot of energy. They didn't have anything in the tank. And they had that bad 2-3 minute spurt where just everything went sideways. Turnovers, offensive fouls. They're letting Jose Alvarado get under their skin. And he's picking up defensive fouls on screens and is just being a pest. Seen that story before. Saw that in the postseason when these two teams hooked up in the postseason a couple of years ago. We've seen it. And they just played right into it. And they just had the bad stretch. And last night their season came to an end. Last night their season had it the final nail in the coffin. And so we told you yesterday what we were going to do. I am not going to, at any point in today's show, tell you how important this game is for the Phoenix Suns. I am not, the rest of this season, for the 23 games that remain, I am not going to tell you how important these games are for the Phoenix Suns, because do you know how important they are? They're not important one bit. They're zeros. For the first time all season, we have gotten to a place where these games don't matter for the Phoenix Suns, because I am not going to try to convince you, and more importantly, try to convince myself, that this team has a chance to win any game they play the rest of the way. If you can't beat New Orleans when they're shorthanded, when you're at home, when you have I don't care that Bradley Beal didn't play last night. Truthfully, I don't care. That is an excuse. That is an excuse and a time of year where I don't want to hear excuses. This team is going to pay out in salaries and taxes nearly $450 million. You don't have excuses. You have $450 million worth of talent, and you can't make the play-in tournament. 20 teams make the playoffs or the play-in tournament. You are not going to be one of those teams. That's it. I'm not going to try to convince myself. I am not going to try to twist myself into a mental pretzel to try to find the pathway where they can do this. I'm not going to talk about what Sacramento's doing. I'm not going to talk about what Golden State is doing and try to do the math and see if they can close down on Dallas. I'm not going to do it anymore. Not going to do it. If you can't beat a team that had 15 wins going into last night on your home floor, why should I expect you to do anything on the road? You might do it. You might surprise me, but I'm no longer going to expect it. I'm no longer going to think you have a chance in any of these games. And now the scary part, and we're starting to see this, it started last night, I think it's going to continue, is we need to buckle up, because this is going to get bumpy. This is going to be a rocky roller coaster to the finish, because I think this thing might come apart at the seams. This thing might unravel very quickly.